Hi guys, this is lesson 8.5. I want to have you start by doing the left section. So pause the video and do that, and then come back and check your answers. Alright, this is what you should have gotten. The only real potential thing I see anybody be confused about on this one is maybe you might have thought to circle this because it has 3 terms. But you'll notice once you put it in standard form, which includes simplifying it or combining like terms, you'll see that you'll actually only have 2 terms on this one, so it's only a binomial. Alright, so let's go ahead and start talking about problem 1. I'm going to show you a little different way than the book shows for these, and my way will work for all of the problems we are about to do. So when we have something, a trinomial, and it's written in standard form like this. This is a quadratic trinomial. Alright, so I'm going to be showing you how to factor quadratic trinomials. And the first thing that you should do, make sure to write these steps out for yourself in your notes. The first thing you should do is look at the operation symbol that comes right here. If this is positive, or a plus sign, that means that both of the factors, and I'll talk to you about those in a second, but it means they will both match. And then this sign right here tells us the sign of the bigger of those 2 numbers. So let me show you what I mean. Factoring means we're going to end up with something that looks like what we would have before we FOIL. So I look at x squared, and I can see that that's x times x. So I put an x here, and I put an x here. This thing tells me that the constants will have the same sign. They will match. Their signs will match. This tells me that both of those signs will be positive. So I'm going to have a plus and a plus. And now all I have to think about is this number right here. I need 2 things that are factors of that. Factors means 2 numbers that multiply to equal 15, but they add up to equal 8. So I start thinking of the factors of 15, and I know they're 1 and 15, which that can't be right because those add up to 16, and 3 and 5. 3 and 5 add up to 8, so I put those in here, and it doesn't matter what order I put them in. Alright, so go ahead and pause the video and try Got It 1. Alright, your problem should look something like this. They've just listed out the factors and showed their sums, and you can tell probably that we need this one because 3 times e is 24 and 3 plus e is 11. And then at the bottom, well, first of all, this is our answer right here. And then at the bottom it says to check yourself with FOIL. If you take your answer and FOIL it, when you put it all together, this last thing should match what you started with, which was this right here. Sorry, I've kind of covered it up, but you have it on your worksheets. Now, this is not the answer, this is just how we checked it. The answer is there. Notice on this one we actually have a subtraction sign. So again, remember the first thing we look at is this. When this is a plus sign, that means both of our operations of both factors will match. This tells us they will both be subtraction. So I'm going to have a minus and a minus. Alright, so the plus here tells us they will match or be the same operation, not the same factors, but the same sign of the factors. And this right here tells me that they're both going to be negative. On the last problem, they were both positive. So now you might remember from the last problem, we already know 2 factors of 24 that add up to 11. So let's think for a second, if we had negative factors, would that add up to negative 11? So we can use FOIL to check ourselves. The first would be x squared, outside would be negative 3x, inside is negative 8x, And last is positive 24. And when we add them up together, we get x squared minus 11x plus 24. So that means this answer was correct. All right, pause the video and do problem 2. All right, you should have come up with something like this. We should have sum here and multiply here, negative, negative, and then negative 2 and negative 4. Here's what your answer ends up looking like. And then we check it by foiling, and since this right here matches this right here, we know we did it correctly. So this is our answer. Notice on this one, the first thing that you're supposed to check this time ends up being negative. What that means is that we will have one positive and one negative. The reason it means this is they have to multiply to equal negative 15. The only way you can get a negative product is if you've multiplied a positive and a negative number. So the next thing we want to think about is this sign here will go to the larger of the two numbers that we think of as being factors of 15. So picture we have a negative 15. Let's look at that. And we want its factors to add up to positive 2. So right away you're probably thinking of the factors 5 and 3. 5 is bigger than that, so we're going to put it with the plus sign because of this right here, and we'll put the 3 here. And notice if we add positive 5 and negative 3, we'll get the positive 2 we're looking for. And then we could just FOIL to check ourselves, so if we did get the plus and the minus in the wrong spots, that would be our chance to fix it. Alright, so go ahead and work on problem 3. Pause the video. Alright, your answer should look something like this. Positive 12 plus negative 3 equals the positive 9 that we're looking for right here, and it multiplies to the negative 36 that we needed right here. I wanted to mention something to you too, I forgot to say before, but when you're writing these, technically order doesn't matter, but I'd like you to get in the habit of having the positive one come first. If they're both positive, I don't care which one comes first, and if they're both negative, I don't care which one comes first. But if you have one of each, have your positive come first, because there's something coming later down the road where you're going to appreciate having this first. Alright? So let's consider a real problem where we need to use factoring to solve it. On problem 4, it says that we have a rectangle and that the area is x squared minus 2x minus 35. And it wants us to say what the possible dimensions are. So we're looking for length and width. Since area is length times width, you can see that length and width are factors of area. So all we have to do is factor this area. So the first thing we look at always is this guy right here. Since this is minus, what is that telling us? It's telling us that we will have a positive and we will have a negative, or we will have a plus and we will have a minus. This tells me the one that has the greater absolute value will go after the minus sign, because that too is negative. So I think of the factors of 35. There's 1 and 35, there's 5 and 7. 5 and 7 happen to be 2 apart. So the larger absolute value is the 7, so it's going to go here. And the 5 goes here. And you'll notice negative 7 plus positive 5 equals the negative 2 we wanted. So here are the possible dimensions that we wanted for this rectangle. Go ahead and pause the video and do problem 4. Alright, this is what your answer should have looked like. And in the end, you should have gotten x plus 8, x minus 9. Alright, on this problem, we can see that there are two variables, and I don't want you to panic here. It's not as scary as it looks. We're still going to have our x and our x. But notice this y squared and this y right here. That just means whatever constant we put here is also going to have the variable y. So when we multiply them together, we'll get 55y squared, or negative 55y squared, sorry. And when we add them up, we'll get positive 6xy. Alright, so we just put the x and the y there and start thinking about the numbers instead of the variables. So we need two factors of negative 55, then when we add them together, we get positive 6. So I start thinking of the factors of 55, and the only thing that jumps out at me is 11 and 5. And notice they are 6 apart. Alright, so I forgot my plus and my minus. I'm glad that you remembered that. And so I look at this, like this told me I had a plus and a minus. This tells me that the bigger one is positive, so that means the 11 goes here and the 5 goes here, and I am done. Pause the video and do problem 5. Alright, this is what you should have come up with. Keep in mind the foiling is not your answer. The foiling just needs to match this for you to know that your answer is correct. This is the answer. Alright, go ahead and complete the lesson check and let me know what questions you have when I see you in class.